we have two guest speakers, so we look forward to hearing from Kate Rogers and Declan, whose last name I don't have in front of me right now. Cooke, thank you. Thank you, Declan. And we will invite them up after the choir sings their second song to give us their thoughts on why I'm a UU. So we're very much looking forward to that. It'll be wonderful. In contemplation of that place inside of us which holds everything dear and everything that we fear, all at the same time. And in this silence we pray and know health and wholeness for the earth, health and wholeness for all people, health and wholeness for ourselves. Amen. The reading this morning is a responsive reading. I'll introduce it and then you will have a part. Many of you may know Douglas Brooks is the director of the Office of National AIDS Policy. He wrote recently, "There is no better time than World AIDS Day to recommit ourselves to achieving an AIDS-free generation. This year we celebrate the tremendous progress we have made together in expanding access to HIV prevention, treatment, and care services, and focus on the potential to achieve sustainable epidemic control and end AIDS as a public health threat. In 2015, we know what it takes to prevent HIV infections and improve the lives of people living with HIV. The theme for World AIDS Day 2015 is, "The time to act is now." Please join me in our responsive reading, which you can find as an insert in your order of service. Your line will be, "The time to act is now." This was written by our wonderful Reverend Kate. In our gardens, dunes, and bay rest the ashes of friends lost to AIDS. So many loving souls taken so young, so much we did not know.
The time to act is now.
We cared for the sick and buried the dead with loving hands. In their honor and for our very lives, we worked and fought, researched and protested.
The time to act is now.
In time, drugs were developed and education worked at easing the fears of a nation. The struggle continued and the dying slowed down.
The time to act is now.
Now, those living with HIV and effective treatment can live long lives. We give thanks for our lives and our friends' lives that are not being taken from us.
The time to act is now.
We work to educate a new generation about prevention and the risk of AIDS. We tell stories of the past and look with hope to the future.
The time to act is now.
We look out at the ocean now and see that it links us not just to ashes, but to countries around the world also struggling with AIDS prevention and treatment.
The time to act is now.
We join hands with them in this work of awareness and access to treatment. We fight corporate greed, hand out protection, and advocate for testing.
The time to act is now.
We continue to grieve and know that we can never forget. The memories of our friends and the health of the world are at stake.
The time to act is now.
Not just on World AIDS Day, but every day. We are the vessels of remembrance and the vessels of hope.
Good morning again. I've been asked why I am a UU, and I'll explain by remembering 4 times when I've been invited to a pulpit, including this one. The simplest answer of why I'm a UU is that I've found a warm, inclusive, diverse community that is committed to acceptance, openness, compassion, and love. I am honored to stand here today as a poet. As a poet, I strive to feel and express acceptance, openness, compassion, and love in my life and work. I read yesterday in a recovery text that humility is self-acceptance, accepting our true nature, honestly being ourselves, not to grovel or abase ourselves, nor to appear smarter, happier, or wealthier than we are. And just as we accept ourselves, we are humble in accepting one another, not trying to change or control anyone else, but learn from them and recognize their original, beautiful inner light. One of my favorite fairy tales when I was little was The Little Lame Prince by a woman named Dinah Cooke. It was about a prince who is shut away in a tower because he is different, because he can't walk, and he escapes on his magic cloak at night. Dinah Cooke also wrote this in 1859. Oh, the comfort, the inexpressible comfort of feeling safe with a person, neither having to weigh thoughts nor measure words, but spilling them all out. Right out there, just as they are, chaff and grain together, certain that a faithful hand will take and sift them, keep what is worth keeping, and with a breath of kindness, blow the rest away. As for openness, I believe it is essential to be open to new and different ideas, diverse people, religions, languages. Growing up in New York City, I was exposed to so much. At 26, I took a trip around the world with my brother, and though we visited a dozen countries and met thousands of exotic people, creatures, places, I realized that our path was just a thread with a few beads on it. This journey that seemed so huge. There was so much more to open up to. When I returned, I shared parts of my journal at the UU in Staten Island, New York. As Melody Beatty says in A Journey to the Heart, let your heart open gently. The universe awaits, ready, willing, delighted to be able to help you open the same way it aids the opening of a flower with the sun, the rain, the earth. Open your heart, embrace life, go joyfully on your way. About 20 years later, I was invited to be a worship host at a UU in Medfield, Mass, to celebrate Poetry Month. This brings me to the idea of compassion. As a poet, I try to be brave and express my vulnerabilities, expose my bruises, my fears, my sorrows and concerns, so I may heal and offer others catharsis, perhaps, a space in which they may express and release some of their fears and pain. As we do, we've all been there, as we do when we light the chalice. I also do this by writing about the everyday grace and beauty we can notice each day in nature and in human nature. Our hearts can absolutely overflow with joy. I often feel moved to stand on my head or walk on my hands. If only I could. I'm so thrilled with life. As Mary Oliver says in her poem, Mindful, every day I see or I hear something that more or less kills me with delight, that leaves me like a needle in the haystack of light. It is what I was born for, to look, to listen, to lose myself inside this soft world, to instruct myself over and over in joy and acclamation. Acclamation, like clamor, is from the Latin to call out. Compassion, to me, is when we call out to one another, offering hope and understanding. Being part of the UU choir feels like compassion, singing our hearts out to open, embrace, and heal yours and ours. And finally, love. Love, love, love. It's what it's all about. A long time ago, I found a button that said, "I love everyone, and you're next." It sounds almost like a threat, but I can't help it. I don't want to help it. I've been so blessed in my life to have been embraced by many families, been shown so much generosity and encouragement, good fortune, and love. I glow with it. I was so lucky that when I finally came to and came out, I felt accepted by everyone for who I am. But it all started a long time ago. I was raised in the Episcopal Church, christened, confirmed, an acolyte for 7 years, which connected me to my mother and her family. And going to church brought me peace. But also when I was a little girl, one person who showed me huge love and taught me so much was Mamie Jones Peters, who helped raise me because my parents worked and traveled so much. She took me to her church, the Memorial Baptist Church on 115th Street and Adam Clayton Powell Boulevard in Harlem. There, she was a playwright, she cooked, she was in the nurses' auxiliary, and she sang in the gospel choir. One day, when I was about 7, the preacher invited me to the pulpit to sing a song. I must have been singing around the house. It was from the musical South Pacific. It goes like this. Dites-moi pourquoi la vie est belle. Dites-moi pourquoi la vie est gaie. Dites-moi pourquoi, chère mademoiselle, est-ce que parce que vous m'aimez? I'll offer a simple translation. It's a series of questions asked of a young woman. Tell me why life is beautiful. Tell me why life is gay. Tell me, my dear mademoiselle, is it because you love me? In answer to these questions, and the original question, why I am a UU, why am I a UU? I am a UU because life is beautiful, life is gay, and yes, I love you, everyone, and you're next.
Good morning. I'm Declan Cooke. My parents named me after a 5th century Irish saint. Growing up in Danvers, I strongly disliked my unusual name because I felt it prevented me from fitting in with my peers. My parents, disappointed that I didn't share the same interests as other boys, bribed me with $5 to join an intramural sports team in grammar school. I dreaded it and was eager to get back to my piano lessons with Sister Xavier. My name would be the least of my concerns as I reached puberty, and my world became divided into those who were straight and those who were gay. And to my horror and profound shame, I realized I was in the latter category. It's hard for me to comprehend now, but I clearly recall that I felt my situation was unspeakable. After college, I entered the seminary, an environment where I thought I would not have to face my sexual orientation. Boy, was I naive. It was in the seminary that I experienced my first kiss, and where I verbally acknowledged that I was gay. It felt as though I was speaking from the bottom of the ocean as I haltingly uttered, "I am like that too," when a classmate talked about being gay himself. Feelings I had avoided and suppressed, I was now experiencing for the first time in my 20s, and I left the seminary to take time to understand myself. I took a job working as a music director and organist for a Catholic parish. If I was not going to be a priest, I could serve the church this way and make myself more acceptable to God. I also found a job working for a mental health agency. One aspect of human services that influenced and helped me was the fact that one's sexual orientation was welcomed and embraced as part of being a whole person. About 10 years later, I met my husband, Paul, who was also a church organist, and we lived together in Marblehead. With each year that Paul and I were together, it became more difficult to remain working for the church. I'm sorry, but you can't have the song Evergreen at your wedding. No secular songs. It's against church rules. I felt like a fraud and hypocrite, disappointing brides-to-be as I denied their song requests, knowing that my concealed life with Paul was a graver offense in the eyes of the church than any song by Barbra Streisand. In 2003, between the Vatican's response to the Church's sexual abuse crisis by scapegoating gay men and its virulent rhetoric against same-sex marriage, after much soul-searching, Paul and I decided that we needed to leave not only our jobs, but the church altogether. We decided to join the Unitarian Universalist Church after reading a pamphlet entitled Unitarian Universalism, a religious home for bisexual, gay, lesbian, and transgendered people. We were deeply moved and decided that any religious organization that had the conviction to publish such a pamphlet and advocate for the rights of gays as far back as the 1970s was where we wanted to be. That was pretty much all we do about the UU religion. Being organists, we purchased our own UU hymnals to have at home. I marveled at how hymn texts were carefully chosen to encourage personal growth, awareness of the human family, inclusiveness, and care and respect for our planet. The readings in the back of the hymnal whet my appetite for the poetry of Mary Oliver and others. So the pamphlet got me in the door, but what made me stay? Over the years, the most common sentiment I've heard from others outside our community is something along the lines of, "UUs don't believe in anything. You can believe whatever you want," or "there's nothing there." I have not been influenced by those statements, as my experience has been that Unitarian Universalists believe that all people have something to offer, that life is richly diverse and varied, and no one person or religion has all the answers. We are all on a journey seeking what is true and just. As a UU, I've been exposed to different beliefs and have been changed by many of them. As I recall my way of thinking about who was a good person or what was the best religion, who was right and who was wrong, I see how small my world was, how I had set up barriers to new ideas, and I'm so grateful to have had my eyes and mind open to the beauty and diversity of life. This religion continues to help me with feelings I'm conflicted about. Since leaving my former church, I need to be honest that I've felt anger and resentment towards those who stay in it or choose to join. Paul has instructions from me when he retrieves the mail to immediately discard any alumni literature from a Catholic high school and college, as the news about growing enrollments or a new building going up on campus upsets me. Why aren't people driven away by the church's marginalization of people who are gay? These feelings boiled up over the past few months with seeing images of the Pope on magazine covers at the Checo line and Stop and Shop. A few weeks ago, Reverend Kate preached her sermon, My Way or the Highway, in which she said that it's hard for individuals to honor religious traditions which we have intentionally walked away from. But in thinking that we are right and they are wrong, we are valuing winning the argument over understanding the other person. It was as if Reverend Kate had prepared a sermon with me in mind. I felt blessed that day and that I received a gift of a message that has given me a new perspective and may help me find inner peace. Why not just stay home on Sunday and forget the whole religion thing? My experience has been that attending Sunday services is an opportunity to be blessed and to bless others. Several weeks ago, our closing hymn was, We Are a Gentle, Angry People. I noticed as a visitor to the meeting house, a young woman standing diagonally in front of me began to sing verse 5. We are gay and straight together, and we are singing for our lives. Her body lurched forward in surprise as she and everyone around her joyfully sang out the words, and she began to weep. I felt blessed to have witnessed how others are deeply moved by being accepted. I wish those words were in my hymnal and had been sung by the congregation when I was growing up. Sometimes, very rarely, I wonder, who am I to have left my former religion with its millions of adherents and its leader making headline news? Would Peter Morales, the president of the UUA, ever be on the cover of Time magazine? At those moments, it helps me to think of the line in Robert Frost's poem, The Road Not Taken. I took the road less traveled by, and that has made all the difference.
Thank you, Declan and Kate.